All right, we are live. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. Welcome to this Product People event. This is one of our weekly series where we have a Tuesday live stream where we're all here having a storytelling session, listening to wonderful people talk to us and tell us about their experiences and talk about their favorite topics. So, before starting, please remember that you can watch the stream on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and even Twitch. And also, just a reminder for everyone that this call will be recorded. So, if you want to share it afterwards with your fellow PMs, with colleagues, with friends, you can just head to our YouTube channel where you can find the link and you can share it with them. And we will also have a Slido running for you to give us some insights and also ask questions directly to our speaker. And speaking of our speaker, today, let me introduce to you who we have. So we have Ankur Sisodia. He is the head of products at N26. This is a leading neobank serving 5 million customers in 24 markets across Europe. Ankur leads the product teams across consumer lending, savings, customer service experience, and platforms. And in today's session, we're going to talk about, or rather, we're going to learn about how storytelling can elevate your conversations and outcomes with customers, your teams, and your leadership. So we have, essentially storytelling as a product manager. This is going to be the topic for today, a quite exciting one. Um, we're really happy to get into it. Before that, allow me to give a quick introduction of myself as well. So my name is Mirza. I come with about 5 years of experience in product management and product operations management, a bit of a mixed experience in B2B, B2C, B2B2C as well. The background in computer science and an MBA in project management as well. But before we dive deeper into further things, allow me to tell you what we do at Product People, and how we give back to the community in our best ways as well. So this is also for those of us that are with us for the first time. Now, our mission, Product People's mission, is to help companies discover and deliver great products faster. We essentially do interim product management. We try to empower the product management community to share knowledge generously while also managing hands-on work of a product manager, product owner, product operations, or even a product leader on a fractional basis. We have our own in-house staff. All the PMs, all the consultants are all in-house. And that's essentially the services that we provide is how we make money. But how we give back to the community is free events, talks and conversations, and even live streams like this. Um, we would also encourage everyone to join our communities online, and it is currently 60,000 plus members across Europe, across the world actually, and one of the largest PM communities in Europe. So one of these sessions is also, again, how we give back to the community, and we'd love to get into more details of the session as well. But there's going to be one more thing before we do. We would love to get to know you. And this is the host as well. The host would also love to get to know you a bit better, our audience. And these are a few questions coming in from the host themselves. Now, if you have a Slido you can scan the code on your phone. You can visit the website. The code is over there as well. And you can help us answer the question. And this is for us to get to know you, for us to understand our audience. And perhaps I can also steer the conversation to try and help address some of the personas, if I may say, that we have in the audience today. So when communicating product ideas, what do you think makes people care the most? A clear and logical argument, a powerful story that connects emotionally, a strong vision backed by data, or the credibility of the person sharing it? If you scan the code, the QR code, or if you visit slido.com and enter the code given, you can answer this question. We will be sharing that answer with you right now before we get into the conversation. Whatever answers we get, I'm sure we're getting a few of them coming in already. We will share them with you, and we will use that to understand where our audience actually sits. So I'll just repeat the question one more time. When communicating product ideas, what do you think makes people care the most? A clear and logical arguments, a powerful story, a strong vision backed by data, or the credibility of the person sharing it? All right, we have some answers coming in. Most of the people agree that a powerful story that connects emotionally is what makes people care the most. It's a very nice, a very interesting answer as well. All right, I believe that does mean that we are in the right stream here. We're addressing the right audience. Awesome. Now, uh, everyone watching, ladies and gentlemen, I will now hand over very soon to Ankur, who's going to talk about storytelling as a product manager. Ankur, we can have you now. All right.
Thank you, Mirza. Thank you, Francisco. And thank you, everyone joining here today. Delighted to be here, and especially with the product people team who have been wonderful partners for us over at N26. My name is Ankur Sisodia, and today I have the pleasure and the privilege to speak to you about storytelling as a product manager. I am currently head of product at N26 based in Amsterdam. And I think maybe just to start, it was interesting to get the survey results. I think we certainly are in the right stream. Although I wonder if it's a correlation or a causation that we get the answer, but maybe we'll find out. And part of my role here today is to hope to share some stories with you and a couple of practical tools and tips to help you. And certainly we'll leave time at the end for Q&A. Very interested in hearing from you. So with that, I'll do a quick introduction and then we'll head right in. Over to the next slide here. So again, my name is Ankur Sisodia. I'm currently based in Amsterdam and working at N26 as head of product. Maybe a couple of things about me on the personal side, right? So I'm ambidextrous. I use my left hand for playing certain sports like tennis or table tennis, which is something I enjoy. And I write with my right hand. And I'll kick a football, or where I'm from originally in the US, we call it soccer, with my right foot. I enjoy storytelling, traveling, and sports. And for me, product is a field that I kind of ended up in. It was a bit accidental, but also a great passion and kind of a blend of interest for me. And I see it as a craft that offers endless learning and requires deliberate practice. And some of the companies that I've worked at, so again, at N26 here, which is a pan-European bank and innovative neobank focused on serving over 5 million customers in 24 markets, and really building this kind of empathetic and bank that the consumers love to use. And prior to that, worked at organizations such as Google, Capital One, and a couple others as well. And I studied over in the US at the Wharton Business School, as well as studied engineering at Northwestern. So that's a little bit around me. But again, one thing that I also like to do when I get to know folks is really understanding their story. So I hope through the conversation today, I can invite you into a bit of my own story, both in product, but also the journey of storytelling in the product management space, and also sharing a framework. So with that, why storytelling as a product manager, right? So I find that storytelling has proven to me and also through research to be a powerful way to build a culture of empathy within an organization, both virtually and in person. We noticed prior to the pandemic, folks getting together and more organizations getting together with this concept of building stories, especially during the pandemic, virtually as a way to connect with each other and peers through some of the fun and also challenging times in our lives. We found that storytelling builds customer empathy. So really, as we think about the concept of personas and user journeys and user flows, it's very integrated into the product kind of craft. And maybe you've read about through some of the content from authors like Marty Kagan and others. And we find that it drives product outcomes, and we'll get into that in a moment. Storytelling can also build and does drive buy-in, investment, and momentum. So as you're building your product vision and strategy across the organization, getting that commitment, that excitement, both from the leadership, your peers, your teammates, and also partners outside of your organization, the emotional connection you can build through stories is a very powerful way we've seen, and I've seen personally, to drive and create that vessel in the channel to unlock a lot of value for the business and for the customers. And then thirdly, storytelling drives a culture of diversity and inclusiveness. We've seen that it's increasingly important in recruiting and retaining talent. Over 80% of CEOs believe that a company's financial performance is directly tied and contributed to by workplace empathy, and specifically storytelling role in that is so critical. And so these are just, again, a couple of different ways in which does create value and unlock value as a product manager. And I would love to share more with you my own journey through a series of stories. So with that, let's kind of walk through the evolving journey of Ankur as a product storyteller. So this story starts, and often is the case, I share this with my product managers and with teams that I work with a little bit of my own personal story, right? So as I think about early journey, for me, I was actually born in the Netherlands. Our family moved when I was very young to the US, to the East Coast of the US. And after just 3 or 4 years in the US, this is actually a photo of a goodbye or farewell card. And this card was from my classmates in the first grade. And that was because our family had been asked to move to India, where my dad had gotten a new opportunity. And so that was a farewell card. A lot happened between that Friday when we had this farewell party and the Monday where we decided, actually as a family, or my parents decided to stay in the US. So that card was a great memory for me of kind of importance of adaptability, but also that story has really resonated with me. And it's one that I actually share often as I'm working with new teams, with new product managers and colleagues, and building trust, moments of vulnerability, moments that were personal to me, and ones that I can connect to with my colleagues as a way of kind of inviting them into my life, and building that trust and credibility and that empathy in the workplace, in order to then start talking about strategic topics on the product and business side. So for me, this is a bit of a story and an artifact that I use to connect, and kind of the vulnerability that we felt as a family, and that has kind of shaped a lot of my childhood, and so wanted to share that. Now, I'll fast forward to 2015, right? So here you're looking at a photo of Kathmandu, Nepal, in the summer of 2015. So as you may recall, earlier that year in the spring, there was an 8.2 magnitude earthquake in Kathmandu, Nepal. And I was sitting in San Francisco, which is also known to be an area with earthquakes from time to time. And I had friends in Nepal, and they'd reached out and said, "We need help. What can you do?" As I was working at Google in Silicon Valley at the time. And so, working alongside my peers, we decided to create a coalition, a group. And so there was 15 roughly Google employees that we were sent to Nepal, to Kathmandu, with the mission of help on the ground, with a combination of product, engineering, design, business, marketing folks, all on the ground here to help. And so this story is really important as it relates to product, and I'll get to that in a second, because when we got to the ground, as with my background and interest in product, my focus was really to understand the needs on the ground. And we certainly had our ideas of what was needed from the folks there, right? We thought, okay, we're a couple months from these major earthquakes. We're still seeing aftershocks. Maybe they're going to need supplies and resources, and maybe we need to deliver all this value to them. So we came in with that kind of preconceived mindset, that we understood our customers' needs, or in this case, the kind of community of Kathmandu and of Nepal, and that we knew how to help. Well, let me tell you, we were certainly in for a surprise. We got there, we had this kind of mission, a few ideas of projects that we could work on over the course of the month that we would be there. And as we started engaging with some of the local nonprofits and communities and government organizations, we started to get feedback. And in fact, someone pulled me aside just a few days in and said, "Hey, it's really great that you're here to help, but have you taken the time to listen to the needs of the community here? Or do you already have a plan?" I said, "Well, this is what we're seeing. We kind of, we understand that You're in a tough place right now, and we're here to help. And this is where we had the first insight that I think really resonated for me in my early product career, which is the feedback I received from that mentor in Nepal. He asked me, go and spend a couple of days in the rural parts of Nepal, go and spend some time with the students, with the travel kind of, or kind of the hotels, and you may get a different picture. And so we did. So instead of going in and building tents or kind of creating these communities, we went and we listened. We talked to students, we talked to children, we went all across the community to learn. And here's what we learned. We learned that while the folks and the people and the community in Nepal were looking for help, they were looking for help, but with honor and dignity and with resilience, helping them learn how to fish rather than fishing for them, learning that half of their economy was impacted by the hotel industry and the travel industry basically going to zero after people from abroad were understanding that there were earthquakes happening and didn't no longer want to travel there. We learned that remittances, the ability to send money from abroad back to Nepal for Nepalese people that have left, that was contributing over 30% of their economy, and that had also slowed down during this time. When we listen and really actively listen to the users, our customers in this case, the community of Nepal, what we realized and what we learned through that experience is that the hero of the story was not these 15 Googlers coming into the ground to save the day. It was actually them. They were the hero, and our role needed to shift, our mindset needed to shift in order for us to create products, to create solutions, to create value for these community. So what did we do after that? Next, we revisited, we restructured, and we really focused in on understanding where we could create value. For the students, we created a hackathon so that we could help them, especially the university students, supporting and coaching them, allowing them to build apps, enabling them, empowering them, but providing that mentorship and support they were seeking. For the travel organizations and the hotel and hospitality industry, we set up a Google Ads workshop and provided free credit so that they could learn how to use digital marketing to connect with their consumers from abroad, from their potential customers and visitors, and help reshape and rebuild the narrative of what it would look like and the safety and kind of the excitement of the opportunities to travel within Nepal ahead. We also talked to younger students kind of in the elementary school. I had brought in letters to them. But when I went there and understanding this new insight, we actually asked them to write letters back to the students of the US, which was something that really made them feel valued and connected and being able to offer something in return that helped with resilience. So what you're hearing from me here was this experience for me that was transformative in my own product career. So first, as from childhood of kind of building a narrative and a story that could help me help us create empathy with my colleagues in any new organization or team. Second, understanding consumer and users and their needs by actively listening to them first and building from there. So now we go over to 2020, or rather in the early kind of 2018, 17 to 2020. So now I'll share a little bit on a personal note. I started business school at Wharton, I mentioned earlier, in the fall of 2017. My first week at school, my father passed away. As you can imagine, this was a very difficult time for me. And when I get back to campus just a couple weeks later, I had a community of support. But someone introduced me to a club on campus called Storytellers. Maybe you've heard of it as a different name like the Moth or kind of other live storytelling communities. We had one on campus to support our students and to build relationships. I went to one of these story slams, and it was so inspiring to hear the stories from our classmates, things that have happened to them from their times in work, but also in the personal life, both funny, but also serious, and thoughtful and reflective. This community is one in which I learned that you have over 800 students or over 1,000 students across a couple of years in a business school, all invested and committed to learning about storytelling. They saw it as both something that was meaningful personally, as it was the number one or the largest student club on campus, but it was also a tool and a skill set that these future business leaders kind of in the MBA program, or aspirational business leaders, desired and saw as a professional opportunity to grow as well. So over the next year, I got very involved in actually with my co-president, Christine. We led a kind of transformation of this organization. We started to involve various organizations on campus. The deans, the faculty were also involved and saw the value of this in terms of building from a product and also a business perspective. And during the pandemic, when everything was locked down, we all reconvened after graduation, and we had a virtual slam, which you can see here, with over 200 folks out of an 800-person class joined virtually from all over the world, seeing the value of connection and empathy as we all shared stories from our time during the pandemic as well. So that brings me closer to today, which is, as we're kind of looking into 2025 and where I am at today, this kind of experience around storytelling and hearing from classmates and peers and the community, and also my own experiences, really has inspired over the last few years, how can we bring storytelling into the product community and also into the business community and professional community. And over the last 4 or 5 years, while I was at Capital One and then at Welcome Tech and now at N26, I've just really seen and unlocked and just seen other teammates really digging into storytelling as a craft and seeing how it's created and accelerated opportunities for them. So here, I'm currently at N26. I think my first week when I joined last year in February, I was in Barcelona and we were kind of in a product leadership discussion. And I had shared over dinner with my new manager at the time. I had shared a story about riding waves and how I was kind of looking at our products and the opportunity as kind of a series of waves, where at moments you have a big wave and you can see it. And sometimes that wave is far away and you need to kind of paddle, you need to orient yourself in the right direction, and then you need to kind of hop onto that wave. Sometimes you're on the wave is already here, and the only thing to do is paddle hard and intentionally and get on the wave and ride it as far as you can and build that momentum with your teams. And sometimes there is no wave. And in those moments, how do you conserve your energy, your kind of roadmaps, your strategy, and kind of build for another day, but maybe also prioritizing and shifting your product priorities along the way. So I had shared this story over dinner, and it seemed to resonate with my manager, and so he had actually brought it up to the product leadership community the next day, and we had a nice chat about it. And this was one kind of example or an artifact in which we were able to leverage storytelling to illustrate a point around prioritization, around kind of resource management, intentionality, and also timing of product, which is so important, but often not well understood in kind of business organizations. And we had an opportunity to simplify that with the story and really create impact. So this is, again, one example I've continued to see over my time here over the last couple of years, and also throughout my product career over a decade, just the power and impact that we can have through storytelling. Like, you've seen it with our leadership at N26, where even just the story of the founders has been so inspiring, and the innovation that the company has gone through over the last 10 years to create value as we build a cross geography bank across Europe and beyond. So that's a little bit about storytelling and kind of the value that it has brought to myself and to the teams that we work with here, and from previous experiences. So I wanted to share that with you as well. So with that, I wanted to kind of put this in practice. So this is actually something this is a kind of a sheet of paper that I wrote back in 2015. So, when we say practice what we preach, this is also one that I wanted to share with you. These are some of my notes from that summer of kind of the why, and the who, the what, the how, and the call to action. And for me, this was the basis for then telling that story, right? So we talked about kind of Nepal needs help, but the actual hero of this story was not the team or at Google or myself. It was actually the humans of Nepal, and really building the story around them. And so, as we kind of talk about the opportunity and how we built, this was a framework that I used at that period of time. And to make that even more actionable and a framework that maybe could be helpful or interesting to you, on the next slide, I put together a very quick 3-course meal, you could say, for product managers that are interested in telling a story, right? So we'll go with the appetizer, the main course, and then of course, if you have a sweet tooth like myself, maybe dessert as well, right? So with the appetizer, it's the why. It's the emotional appeal towards your customer or your user or your stakeholders' unmet need. Now, this customer could be your end customer, but it could also be an executive that you're trying to kind of build influence and build alignment and support with. It could be with your team to create motivation as we're working to deliver, ship on kind of accountable timelines. How do you kind of inspire and empower and drive your team? Obviously, there's a lot of tools to do so. One of those tools can be storytelling. It can help build attention, create awareness, and also help create focus for your teams, your peers, your leadership, and of course, your customers, which is very critical. So that's the appetizer. Next, we'll go into the main course. And so the main course and the meal here is the who, like who is the hero of this story that you want to tell? Is it empowering maybe a VP of finance, for example, with a better forecasting and budgeting? And so we want to tell a product story to help kind of make a hero of an individual or a team. Maybe there's a team like the engineering team, for example, that you work closely with, and you want to elevate and create value and unlock kind of more value for them. So how do you tell that story? Or of course for your customers, and really telling that story of what's their expectation today, what's their expectation tomorrow, and how you're working to build that through product. The what is the at the core of it is the insight. The signal is the insight that unlocks the value opportunity. So as you're trying to unlock that value of the why, the what is really that insight or a series of insights that can really help unlock the value to build credibility with your leadership and your teams. And it's powered by data, but it can also be powered by other things, past experience, which is maybe also data, credibility, and influence. These are all kind of aligning into the what, and then the how. So what is that actual roadmap to solve the customer's unmet need, and what's the value creation you're going to create? And here I would recommend a framework that one of my coaches, Tammy, has shared with me, which is a where to, where from, and where next framework. So really orienting around where do you want to head with this vision, where are you coming from, and then where next. And maybe a one way of visualizing or thinking from a story perspective is if you've ever used Google Maps or Apple Maps or one of these kind of mobile app or navigation and kind of mapping apps, which I would imagine most of you or all of you have. With Google Maps, the first thing you do is you put in your destination. Then it shows you where you're oriented today. So your where to becomes your destination, where you're oriented today, which is the where from, and where next is then the series of instructions, and that's the direction. That where to is where storytelling, I think, can be quite powerful, especially around vision setting and orienting around kind of getting that emotional connection to where you want to head for the customer, visualizing maybe through AI tools or through AI tools, creating images or video content or prototypes to help tell that story. On the where from, that story is oriented around kind of building that narrative of where the team is today, what's been happening, maybe some of the challenges and pain points that you've been facing, and kind of being open there, and then being open there rather, and then where next is then the story of the roadmap, right? And so our roadmap then becomes an output or and helping to drive that outcome, but the story is beyond a roadmap, right? I think we sometimes often weight heavily on roadmaps. That's certainly part of the equation. But thinking about the KPIs, thinking about connecting it back to the business strategy at the company level. What's that North Star kind of? Is it customer lifetime value? Is it around revenues and profits, or maybe it's around costs, or something along our operations? And so as you think about that story, there's a story to tell in each of those areas, the where to, where from, where next. And this kind of meal can help you do that. Okay, so we've talked about the appetizer, we've talked about the meal, the main course, and now we talk about dessert. And here, the dessert is the call to action. We tell a story, especially as a product manager. It's with intention, it's with focus, it's with creating clarity for your audience. And the story is then the vessel, the mechanism to convey a value opportunity. There needs to be a call to action at the end of that. So that call to action, whether it's to your customer that you've now shared a story within the product and you want them to or communicated a value to the consumer and you want them to maybe make a purchase or consider a new opportunity or participate in a new program, or even advance to the next screen to make it even more tactical. Now, that customer could also be, as I mentioned, your partners or your peers, your stakeholders. So if it's for the leadership, maybe it's around a budgeting ask or a resourcing ask or a prioritization ask. If it's with your peers, it might be around aligning and getting commitments from them in terms of how to invest. And then if it's from your immediate team, it could also be the call to action is to inspire them through story, create that emotional appeal, to then drive focus and kind of a one team approach as you move towards your vision and kind of the team's vision. I think that's really critical. So here, I wanted to provide a little bit of that view for you. Thank you so much for your time. Of course, I'm here for questions. Would love to hear from you and how anything that's on your mind we can certainly address. But again, thank you so much for your time and the opportunity here. Back to you, Mirs.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Ankur, thank you so much. That was actually a very, very insightful conversation. I really enjoyed some of the anecdotes that you used and how you laid it all out in a three-course meal. I think that was one of the best examples I've seen. All right. Um, there's actually more that we could also get into. Some similarities between us about you being ambidextrous as well. But that may be for another time. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will be moving on to a Q&A session in a couple of minutes. For that, please log into Slido or open up Slido. You have the code in front of you, or you could scan the QR code as well. And there you feel free to ask your questions. Ankur is here with us. That is going to be our Q&A session. Any questions you ask, we will try our best to answer them today in the session as we are. I do want to give a couple of shout outs or appreciation. We see comments coming in as well on LinkedIn. Roman Mazur, thank you so much for your comments. Roman says, great stuff. Such an important reminder that we need to make sure the customer voice is consistently incorporated into what we're building. It's a very fair point. And we have more coming in. Now, we will get to the detailed Q&A. I'd just like to take a couple of minutes and explain what we do, what Product People does, again, for those of the viewers that are new with us here today, and some of those use cases in which product people can be engaged, some of those use cases in which we would love to have a conversation. So product people, we provide three major, I would say we can club them into perhaps three major categories. Number one being interim or fractional product management or product or even product leadership. So we essentially cover permanent positions, while when an organization is hiring, which can often take up to 3 to 9 months. Product people can come in and fill that gap for that time period. With also parental leaves, we can come in and cover that. And also if there are any important or urgent initiatives that the organization needs to drive and needs that bit of expertise, the subject matter expertise, the industry expertise, and needs those specialists to come in and execute. With that as well, program management and product operations, we can upskill the existing product management team. We come in with our senior leadership, and they can also assist with upskilling the teams and also realign or create streamlined processes or programs, 0 to 1 scenarios. There is also transformation excellence. We can shift if there is an organization that likes to shift from a tech-led or a sales-led organization to a product-led organization. That shift is also something that we can take up, and even configuring product strategy or team structures. Some of the clients that we have worked with in the past, these are some selected B2C clients. I'm sure most of us would have heard about most of them: eBay, FreeNow, Blinkist, Backmarket, some of our B2C clients. And we've also been in the B2B space with probably notably the World Health Organization, Remote, Eterno clients. These have also been our clients in the past. Now, some quick stats. We have about supported 690 plus cross-functional teams across 100 clients, ranging from Series A startups even to public listed companies. We have about 40 product leaders and product managers in-house to deliver high quality services all to our clients. And something that is quite close to my heart as well, that we take pride in having 59% women in the team, with 60% of the leadership team comprising of women as well. So we have a bias to look at skills before the resume, and that is how we are able to attract and retain the highest talent in the industry. All right. Now we come back to the official Q&A session. I do see that we have a couple of questions coming in already. Ankur, I would like to read the first question to you. We have a question coming in. I really like the lesson you shared from your experience in Nepal. If we try to unpack it a bit, do you think being physically present with your customers makes it easier to truly listen to them compared to PMs who mainly interact with digital users?
That's a great question and an important one, insightful question, especially in the world that we live in today. I think the dynamics of how you interact with the customer changes when it's a digital interface, and when it's physical, right? So I think in the case of Nepal, we did certainly have an opportunity to spend time with them in person, really like close and personal, and spending time in the villages, in the school centers, and so forth. And that builds certainly adds to the element of building empathy for the customer and so forth. I will say across my range and time working in product, I do believe that there are many ways to get to that kind of level of empathy, and certainly that can happen through different methods. I think if I think about N26, for example, or even kind of where like a lot of our digital products, oftentimes consumers may use it in multiple ways. One digital and also physical, like we do at N26. We have a physical card, you're making transactions in a store. You're also using it in a digital capacity in the mobile app. And so I think here, what's important is it's actually important to understand the customer end to end, right? And the closer you can get to them, like reducing that distance signal, meaning the closer you can get to the customer, the better. Now, that form factor could be a survey that you do for consumer in the app, but closer to the interaction that it's happening will be more insightful than one that's farther away. If you think about, like, maybe just to give a couple other examples, if you think about like a survey that you fill a month later after you have an interaction with that customer, that's going to be a very different experience from one that you have in the moment. And so I think whether it's location, whether it's time, whether it's in terms of context, it's about reducing distance where you can to serve the customer. Another way to interact with the customer in a more tangential way is just spending time. If you have a call center, for example, go to the call center and spend time with them in person. I did that when I was at Capital One and also at Welcome Tech, and certainly doing a lot of shadowing of customer service calls here as well at N26. Those opportunities are quite valuable just to listen in. If you can do 100 calls, 200 calls, and really understanding and really feeling that customer. The last thing I'll share is that if you have an opportunity to be a customer of your product, certainly that's not the case in all industries or B2B and so forth. But in this particular case, working in a fintech, I use the product. So I'm also dog fooding our own product. My family and friends are. Every Uber and Lyft driver, if I'm in transit, I'm asking them if they've used the app, if they're willing to, and asking for feedback. Just finding and being creative in the way that you reach out and ask for feedback, and not seeing location as a like virtual versus physical as a blocker, but just within the context that you have, how do you reduce that distance is key. I hope that helps answer that question for you.
Awesome, awesome. Ankur, thank you so much. That was actually another very good example. I think it's a very massive privilege. And I mean, some product managers are pretty lucky if they have the opportunity to also test their products as a user. I think that's a critical element in helping us shape the products and providing that valuable feedback, and also being able to implement that as well. We have a question coming straight from LinkedIn that I would like to quote now, coming in from Daria, who asks, "Do you have an example when it didn't work? When I believe she's referring to the three-course meal framework. If it didn't work in any use cases."
Absolutely. Storytelling and the kind of craft of storytelling as part of telling a vision and a product strategy is certainly an opportunity and a part of the equation. Storytelling without data can also be one in which you won't get all the way, right? So I think early on, especially when I think about kind of earlier experiences in my career as well, I think as an example, I worked at Nike or interned at Nike on the sneakers app. And I think, as I first came in, one of the opportunities and projects that I had was working on our sneakers app, so like limited release sneakers, and how do we kind of create more fairness for the consumer. And so, I had a story. I'd gone to see the various kind of shoe store, like sneakerhead stores across Brooklyn and New York. I had a lot of data and had pitched a story. The story wasn't enough in that case, right? So being able to tell that story was enough. So I went back to the drawing board and try to understand why. And the answer was, well, we had a leader that was also interested in understanding the data aspect around it. How do we have data to quantify the impact here? And that was something that was needed to build the credibility to get all the way. So kind of taking story in one hand, in your other hand, bringing in the data, the strategic kind of insights. Went back to the drawing board. We kind of came up with a metric that was helpful to identify how we could become more fair with how we distributed our product or limited sneakers to more consumers. So we came up with this metric. We were able to quantify it, working with data science, and the business team. And we came back to the drawing board now, not with just the story, but the story with the data and the insights here together. And we were able to make progress, and then ultimately that yielded in a successful product feature launch.
All right, awesome. I do hope that answers the question as well. We have another one. I'm going to try and fit as many as we can, looking at the time as well. And this question is a very interesting one as well. We got this straight from our questions on Slido. Storytelling often relies on emotion. How do you incorporate emotion into fintech topics that can feel very technical or dry?
Interesting. I like the question. So the way I look at it is the following: a consumer of fintech, or let's say a neobank or a bank, is a consumer. And I think the faster that this is one of the insights that I've had coming into this space, or observed rather with the team, and our team has really been thinking a lot about this. Our consumer goes from using our neobank app to then going on to Google, going into Gemini, spending time, or ChatGPT, spending time buying clothing, maybe on a shopping app like Zalando, and buying a plane ticket or a train ticket or a bus ticket, or using a public train app. My point is, this is a consumer throughout the course of their day. We are one interaction. They're not context switching in the sense that their expectations have changed because we're a fintech or a more technical product. Their expectation is similar. They're looking for a great consumer experience, and that expectation is changing faster than ever before. For us as a neobank, the more, or a fintech, the more we are another consumer product, ones that they enjoy working with, the ones that feel delightful, and less of a bank per se, the more effective we are in engaging with our customers. So I would say here, certainly emotional connection, like for brands, you may think of like even Nike and Adidas, for example, on kind of the sporting retail side, or just to kind of come up with other kind of key brands. That's so important, and that doesn't change when you're in fintech. In fact, I think that's what the market and the consumers are asking for, and you're seeing success with brands that are effective at doing that as well. And
Awesome.
fintech are successful there. Yep.
Ankur, actually, I would like to also maybe follow up on that.
Yeah.
So we're talking about trying to create or connect emotions and user needs, which is what we're using to create that emotional link to try and satisfy those needs. That's, if I were to say, that is in a B2C concept or a B2C context. Do the priorities change when we switch over to a B2B context? Does emotion and storytelling have the same impact or effect?
Yes, in a different way. When I was at Google, I worked with large B2B clients, so consumers and or other businesses that were serving businesses as well as customers, B2B to C as well. And what I would say here is certainly the narrative could change from a end customer. You're now thinking of who's that decision maker or influence maker within the organization that might be making a buying decision or a retention decision or a renewal decision, and what's the story they're trying to tell, right? So when I go back to who's the hero of the story, well, if you're trying to sell, I don't know, Google Ads or YouTube to the CMO of a brand like uh, like a GoDaddy, for example, an international brand, how do you find what they care about as that decision maker, that CMO, and how do you help them tell their story? And so for me, it's rather less about the story of you. It's again the story about your end consumer, your end user, and maybe they're under a lot of pressure. Maybe that because board expectations and management expectations are high. Maybe their customer base is changing. Maybe there's an ask for international expansion, and so then the question is, how do you help empower them to tell that great story? And so, again, the more you can kind of connect and understand their needs, crossing over the bridge, meeting them kind of where they are. I often use this phrase that I've learned from a mentor, which is, it's not about, um, you know, treating people the way that you want to be treated. It's actually treating people the way they want to be treated. And in this case, in a B2B environment, we can understand and really understand their needs and what will be them make them successful, that's an approach you can take. And that goes the same for any relationship, whether it's a manager or whether it's a teammate or a peer or a B2B buyer in this case as well.
Awesome, awesome, beautiful. All right. I think just going to take one more question here,
Sure.
and I feel like this is a good question that brings it all together as well. Storytelling is an innate ability, or can it be built? And how can PMs improve in that area?
Fantastic. Couple comments here. It is certainly with conviction. I can say this as someone that started off as a non-storyteller and kind of looked up to others and family members to where I am today, which is it's a journey. It can certainly be built. It is built. In fact, I'd say it's important to know that and to have conviction around it. Like anything else, you can learn and with intentional practice get there. What I can recommend for product folks that are interested in storytelling are a couple of resources. So one is attending a live storytelling event. This doesn't have to be around product per se, but they're across all different cities and geographies. If you can't find one, let me know and on LinkedIn, and happy to connect there. But I would say just starting there, building that story. I think second is finding trusted folks where maybe you have that comfort and vulnerability with. It could be a friend, a colleague, a spouse, or someone that you really trust and can open up and be vulnerable in sharing a story, and then evolving from there. That's the journey that I went on myself. I mentioned kind of in 2019 when I was coming back into my business school environment. And it's one that I've continued to iterate and evolve on like anything else. I think product is all about iteration and experimentation, and it's certainly no different with storytelling. Try sharing a story in one audience, and then maybe do an A/B test and tell a different story in another audience. And asking for feedback, asking for that kind of feedback loop is so important. I'm constantly iterating out that wave story that I mentioned or narrative. I've iterated on that several dozens of times. And I also think it's important to understand as product managers and product leaders, we fly at different altitudes in the organization. And how do you shape that narrative? So while this story might be interesting here, maybe there's elements that are interesting, but we want to make it more succinct, more concise, and maybe with a different meaning for one leader and maybe another leader or teammate as well. So that's something to keep in mind. But I would say if you're thinking about it, if you're here today, to me that shows, and you're answering the survey question, like I see here, you're already showing that there's interest. I think it's activation around the interest and taking small steps, iterating, practicing, experimenting, and then you're just on your way. And I'm excited to hear your stories on LinkedIn or kind of in future forums. Really, really excited for that as well.
All right, amazing, amazing. Okay, so I believe that is where we will have to conclude the Q&A session. For the audience that has further questions that they would love to ask Ankur, I would recommend everyone to feel free to comment down into the video post. We will have Ankur answer those questions. We'll try our best. And you can keep submitting them on Slido as well. Not for long though, but do submit them in, and we will also share them with the speaker today. Now, just
Thank you.
wrapping up to our slides. Here is a little bit of insider updates on product people that we are currently hiring. So if you would like to be part of our recruitment pipeline, you can scan the QR code on the left. And we have positions open for associate product managers and product managers. We'd love to get to meet you. And if this would be a wonderful fit for you, please do scan that QR code and become part of our recruitment pipeline. And also, I would actually encourage this one quite personally as well. Do subscribe to our newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter, comes straight to your inbox. I believe this is some of the best reads that I've personally have done. And I believe this would be a good investment of your time as well. Now, just giving a bit of a precursor for next week. Next week, we will be having a new speaker talking about productionizing enterprise-grade LLM agents with drivers, challenges, and learnings. And we will be speaking to Somnath Biswas. He's the head of product of conversations at Total Jobs. And I believe that is the end of our conversation today. Ankur, I thank you again. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here with us. I thank the audience for their questions, very lovely questions this week. And we will see you all next week.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time, everyone joining, and looking forward to hearing and learning more stories from you as well. Thank you, Mirza. Thank you, product people.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.